Hello, me devilish darlings, it is I, Lenora Levy, your hostess of horror, and I am here to warn you that some viewers may find tonight's program disturbing. There will be discussion of transphobic slurs and violence, and graphic displays of anime. Hope. So if that's going to make you sad, please don't watch this. Unless you enjoy sadness. I know I do. But your macabre mother wants you to take care of yourself, so here, I made you a wet pot of hot tea, and you can take it out on the balcony and pour it on some pedestrians. That always cheers me up. 1. Traps, gentlemen of the Academy, it is my duty to submit to you the findings of my latest mimetic research. Many sleepless nights have I lingered in all the great libraries of Europe, scrutinizing volumes ancient and modern, in search of the answer to two fundamental questions. What are traps, and be they gay? With respect to the former inquiry, I adduce for your consideration a treatise by the lady scholar known as the Pedantic Romantic, wherein the derivation of the word trap is traced to patrons of animated pictures from the Orient. Curious. The chronicle begins in the first years of the present century, when devotees of picture forums would proclaim the idiom, "It's a trap," alongside the likeness of one Admiral Akbar, to suggest that some manner of deception had taken place. Contemporaneous to this was a most whimsical mania for depictions of nymphic Japonesques, to some of which the aforementioned slogan would be rejoined. The implication being that the subject of the portrait was not in sooth a daughter of Eve, but rather that the spectator had fallen prey to some manner of transvestite skullduggery. Furthermore, it appears that from the first, the designation trap has signified not only transvestites, but transsexuals as well. And this must needs be remarked, for 'tis evident such persons ofttimes inflame the lust of ordinary men. It is hence with respect to this phenomenon I pose me second question thus: Fellas, is it gay? I am sorry, who are you talking to? Gentlemen of the Academy, did you get thrown out of Dairy Queen again? It must needs be remarked. Please stop breaking into my house. I shall be the Queen of Dairy. I'm sure you will be. Cross-dresser. Hi, I'm Natalie, Wynn, biological woman. Can we pan the camera down? My hair is less high. Are traps gay? The meme that will not do. Originating around 15 years ago on Fortune, the word trap refers to either a male cross-dresser or a trans woman, especially in a context of neodness coi decadence. The meme, "Are traps gay?" is a mostly jokey debate about the sexuality of men attracted to dick girls. Food nari. X. You know, a lot of these men don't know or care about the difference between a trans woman and a cross-dresser, so it's kind of pointless to get hung up on that. The meme peaked in popularity about a year ago, when someone released the worst specimens of the white race into the wild. Are traps gay? One of life's most important questions. Are traps gay? Traps are gay? Oh, you know. Oh, yes. Will there be transsexuals in the ethnic state? Oh, hopefully not. To the men who meme about this topic, it's all lighthearted fun. It's part of a wider game they like to play called Is It Gay? You know, is it gay to have an threesome only if the balls touch? Don't cross the streams. And so on. But to many trans women, the meme and the word trap itself are highly offensive. In fact, last year when I first proposed making a video about this topic, many trans people on Twitter were outraged because they felt that this topic is just too harmful to even discuss. So here's the challenge I face making this video. On the one hand, there's people who are going to be upset and offended that they're making a video about this topic at all, and on the other hand, there are people who think this is all just harmless otaku shitposting and who are going to be annoyed by me trigger warnings. But first, to the people who think it's too offensive, Here's what I have to say for myself. I've always believed that if you want to persuade anyone, it helps to meet them where they at. And in this case, Retrapskate is where people are at. At one of my YouTube meetups, I met a high school teacher who told me that he overheard some of his male students joking in the hallway about Retrapskate. When those teenage boys go home and Google Retrapskate, who do you want to explain it to them? This is our Maloyianopoulos, this guy, a Scottish hate crime convict named Count Dankula, Orthis Tran. And at the risk of sounding arrogant, I think it should be me. I think sounding I should be You know, as trans women, we have little influence in society. The people who lead the conversations about us are bigger and stronger than we are, so we like a jogger racing against a car. The only way to win is to hijack the car. And so, this video is me attempt to hijack the conversation that straight men are having about us. As always, my aspiration is to derive a woke conclusion from edgy premises, to shitpost me way to the moral high ground. Now, straight men, is all this offense taking just more politically correct cuckoldry designed to take away your free speech? Well, I assure you there will be no taking of your free speech on this channel. Unless you clock me makeup dip bag. Comment deleted. But if you want to know why trans women are offended by Retrapskate, I'm happy to tell you. Not to silence you, of course, but just in case you have the intellectual curiosity to want to know why someone different from you might be hurt by something that seems harmless to you. So, well, let's put it this way. 2. Trans Panic, the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning depicts the ball culture of Black and Latinx gay and transgender people in New York City in the late 1980s. One of the main storylines follows a trans woman named Venice Extravaganza, who describes her precarious existence as a sex worker. I was with a guy and he was playing with me titties until he touched me down there. He felt it and he seen it, and he like totally flipped out. He said, "You fucking faggot, you re a freak. You re a victim of AIDS and you re trying to give me AIDS. What air you crazy? You re a homo. I should kill you." I was really terrified, so he just jumped out the window. During the filming of Paris's Burning, Venice was choked to death, presumably by a client. Her body was discovered 4 days later under a hotel bed. Trans women, in me country almost entirely trans women of color, are murdered at a disgracefully high rate, reaching a record of 29 deaths in 2017. The men who murder trans women often claim they were provoked to violence by the alleged deception of their victims. This is what's called the trans panic defense when legally invoked, as in the 2004 trial of the killers of the teenage trans girl Gwen Arajo. One of the killers, who had sex with Gwen before learning she was trans, cried, "I can't be fucking gay," before beating her to death. With her, men are often willing to side with these killers, saying that if trans women don't want to get murdered, then they shouldn't trick men. But what you have to understand is, first, men usually do know when they're having sex with a trans woman. Like if you have a dick, it's pretty hard, actually, to have sex with someone and have them not notice it. And second, a lot of men view trans women's entire existence as itself a kind of trickery. A black trans woman named Ellen Nettles was murdered in Harlem in 2013 by a man whose friends had mocked him for flirting with her. All she did to provoke him was walk down the street with two friends. The common thread here is not deception on the part of the victims, but rather the drive of the killers to protect their social standing as masculine and straight. But being perceived as a kind of fraudulent lure is something that many trans women across class and race experience some version of, because men view femininity itself as a kind of enticement, as the orchidaceous invitation to a proboscis. I was just reading a Twitter thread by a trans woman who was attacked recently by a man at a bar who started flirting with her until he realized she was trans and then punched her. Like what was she supposed to do to stop that from happening? Just stay at home. For trans women, fears about men retaliating against us for existing actually limit our freedom. There's bars I want to go into because I don't trust the clientele to side with me if some shit like that goes down. And Ivy had little scares. I was in the back of an Uber once and the driver comes on a little flirty, what's your name? Are you a student? And I'm thinking, whoa, he thinks I'm young enough to be a student. But at some point he goes silent, and suddenly I'm getting as he glare in the rearview mirror, like fucking clocked, and for a second I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna die in the back of this car. And of course I didn't die. The rest of the ride was quiet, but it was fine. The stoves, those of coy wise. I mean, I'm gonna be fine. Because white middle-class transsexuals don't get murdered in this country. The murder issue exists at a specific intersection of gender, class, and race, and it's really not me oppression to claim. I sometimes hear white, bougie, middle-class, computer programmer trans women be like, we re getting murdered in the streets. Who soy? It's not white, middle-class trans women. So the trans panic murder issue is really not me lane. It exists at this intersection of masculinity and race, and that's really not a conversation that should be led by a white woman, especially when there's so many things to critic about white masculinity. Let's talk about some now. 3. Taking offense. Okay, back to traps. Now this is me lane. I'm not sure anything's ever been more me lane. of the exquisite pleasure of being entitled to the soapbox. So, boys, I've showed you how trans women's freedom is abridged by our need to navigate around men who view our gender presentation, in fact our very existence, as a kind of trap. I think it should therefore be pretty clear why trans women are not the biggest fans of you using that word for us, or for foodinary, or cross-dressers, or whatever. I mean, to be honest, if someone calls me a trap, my response is more like, whoa, a transphobe thought I looked like a woman. But that's because I'm so pathetic I have to go dumpster diving for validation. But the rest of the trans women out there, the ones with dignity and self-respect, you should definitely not call them traps. Of course, some trans women will overstate the case and say the word trap is literally getting trans women killed, which I can't find any examples of the word trap being connected to a murder. But why don't we stop using the word before someone D's? Because what you redoing when you call trans women traps is you re-showing that you think of us the exact same way as the men who try to justify attacking us. When a man kills a trans woman, literally the argument he trots out in court is that he was trapped. And that's what you reminding us of when you use that word, and that's why trans women are getting triggered over it. You know, sometimes people have good reasons for being triggered by things, and this is one of those times. So, if it were a different kind of creator, I could really end this video now. I think I've made a pretty convincing case that trans women are justifiably offended by the word trap. But if I leave it at that, and this is for you Twitter, this is why I'm making this video. If I simply argue that her traps is offensive, then here's what happens. First, a lot of people simply don't give a shit. In fact, me telling them it's offensive only makes them want to say it more, because they feel on a deep level that they are by nature superior to trans people. So an uppity tranny telling them what words they are allowed to say completely enrages them. So they all comment, traps are gay, lol, just to reaffirm their superiority over me and that I have no power or influence over them, and there's really nothing I can do about those people. But another group of people, the socially progressive liberals, they all say, okay, so since you re-offended by it, I want to say the word trap anymore, and they all be super woke about it, and they all post Twitter callouts canceling anyone who uses the word trap, and they all be very respectful and compassionate toward trans people in public, so long as it makes them but then they all go home at night, and in that twilight between consciousness and sleep, their inner voice will whisper, but are traps. And then, years later, when their son brings home a transgender girlfriend, we'll suddenly watch all that shallow wokeness vanish like so much politically correct vapor. Real acceptance has to be built on real understanding. So it's not enough for me to argue that her traps gay is offensive. I also have to argue whether traps are gay. So are traps gay? Let's watch an instructional video to learn more. 4. The philosopher. Hello boys, it is I, the half-queen, points. After 30 days and 30 nights, the philosopher descended from the mountain top into the gathered villagers, thus spake. Traps. Gay, said he, to whom the half-queen thus replied. Let's see, let me think about it. Oh, I'm gonna stop saying trap now, because it's not a good word, as has been explained. In fact, it's really best to read it like a slur. So what we really asking here is if a man is attracted to or has sex with a trans woman. Is that gay? Well, the simple answer is no, because trans women are women, and a man having sex with a woman is, let's see here, according to the experts he consulted, it is not in fact gay. But that's not the most persuasive answer, because in order to find it convincing, you already have to believe that trans women are women. And unfortunately, if you ask the average person about this, what they say is something like, sure, I think trans women are women, but they shouldn't expect men to want to date them unless they re into that sort of thing. Oh, and what sort of thing is that? Usually when a man tells you he's dating a woman and you say, oh, what's she like? And he says, she's from Cincinnati, your response is not, oh, David, I didn't realize you were into that sort of thing. In other words, these people tell you trans women are women, but, and then they say something that shows they don't really think trans women are women at all. So since test audiences have proven shaky on that point, it would basically be circular reasoning for me to try to argue that attraction to trans women isn't gay because trans women are women, since the womanhood of trans women is precisely the point that's being disputed. So maybe the observational approach is better. The facts are indisputable. Many heterosexual men are attracted to trans women, and comparatively few gay men are. Now to trans women, this is just an obvious fact about our everyday experience in the world. We know who's attracted to us and who isn't, so to us this completely unnecessary debate is as impractical as the question of whether the sun will rise tomorrow. Sure, philosophers can say, but how do we know the sun will rise tomorrow? To which the correct response is shut the fuck up, nerd. Stop playing chess against your own brain and find a real thing to worry about. It's just a basic fact of experience that the sun rises every morning, and to trans women it's a basic fact of experience that the people who are attracted to people who are attracted to women. Of the cis men I've been with since I started me transition, all identify as straight and all had only ever been with cis women until this tran came along. Am I really so powerful a seductress that lifetime heterosexuals are turning gay over these tinny tits? Let's not get cocky. I mean, if a man is attracted to women and not to men, and he perceives me as a woman and is attracted to me as a woman, and he sleeps with me, and then he continues being attracted to women and not to men, in what world is that anything but a straight man? What wild maze of reasoning do you have to invent to argue that this man is really gay? Well, we all know exactly how this maze of reasoning goes, beginning with the obvious. What about the penis? Yes, the penis. Look, baby, we'll get to the penis. Don't you worry about that. But first, I should remind everyone that a lot of trans women do in fact have vaginas, because they got 5. In fact, I've been thinking of signing up for a vagina myself, but the thing is I make too much money for Medicaid now, so I have to form an ULC, become my own employer so I can give myself health benefits, and it could have so much paperwork. You have to become an unincorporated legal entity in this country just to get a fucking cunt. Because transphobic radical feminists will say it's not a real vagina, just a fuckhole, because a real vagina is a sacred passage. And that's fine by me. What am I gonna do with a sacred passage anyway? Get fingered by the Pope. Pass. Straight men don't get hung up on this. I guarantee you no straight man has ever thought of a vagina as a sacred passage. They either grossed out by goo or they trying to climb inside. What I'm trying to say is, in the past I've been a little uncertain about getting a vagina because me genital dysphoria isn't that bad, and besides, chicks with dicks are very in right now, very 2019, very trending, and being a dick girl it's kind of like being a legendary Pokemon, you know. People take interest, people pay attention to you, and isn't that what we all want? But unfashionable though it is, I don't think I want the surgery because, well, guys, can I confess something kind of dark to you? I have this really fucked up fetish where I want a boy to put his penis in me vagina. Crazy, right? I mean, I like anal, but the gross thing about anal is you have to eat well. I don't want to eat well. I want to shove garbage into me mouth hole and get dicked. Is that a crime? It is kind of a scary surgery though. Like, what if me vagina sucks? I'm afraid I have some bad news. The tests are back and are showing that, in the medical terminology, your vagina does indeed suck. The point is, the easy sell version of the argument I'm making is that there's nothing homosexual about a man's attraction to a trans woman who's been on hormones a couple years. She has female skin, she smells like a woman, she has breasts, she's giving hair body face. She's post-op and has a vagina. Now, even in this situation, people will still say it's gay because of the chromosomes. But look, human beings have 5 senses, and none of them can detect chromosomes. Sexual attraction is not based on some chromosomal metaphysics of gender. It's based on perception. And if you a man, and you perceive Simone as a woman, and you attracted to her as a woman, then you are having a heterosexual moment, my dude. Congratulations, you a breeder. Now the argument people make is, okay, fine, it's a straight if you mistake her for a biological woman. But if you know she's a man and you still attracted, then it's yeah, but So look, if you believe that trans women are men, then that belief might interfere with your perceptions, and it might change the relationship between your perceptions and your sexual response. But more likely is that you still will feel attraction to the trans woman only if you value your identity as a straight man. You will feel ashamed of your attraction, and you will try to fight and deny, and you will probably end up treating trans women like absolute garbage. Now, if I wanted to make these one-on-one type response here, I would say trans women are women because they identify as women. And so, every heterosexual man who's experiencing attraction to a trans woman is necessarily experiencing heterosexual attraction because of the way the person he's attracted to identifies. But that's just replacing the black and white thinking of a biology dogma with the black and white thinking of an identity dogma. But human sexuality is not black and white. It's not even shades of gray. It's a multicolor acid trip. It's Centaur Donna Summer charging at you with a spanking paddle. So sexual attraction is not based on chromosomes, but it's not usually based on psychological identity either. Most of the time, initial attraction anyway is based on what I'd call presentation, how you look and act. And I think that's especially true of men. They get turned on by that initial visual pop. They see, they conquer, they come. I mean, you have to admire the simplicity of it. Sometimes I wish I were a man. So look, if what you want is a woman who pops, then rest assured there are plenty of trans women who pop. Maybe you don't think I pop, but you'd be hard-pressed to argue that any number of trans models and actresses don't pop as much as any cis woman pops. So the pop is undeniable. No one's questioning the pop. In fact, without the pop, It never would be occurred to men to call trans women traps, because they wouldn't be trapped if they weren't attracted in the first place. But a lot of men seem to think that the pop, the visual presentation of a trans woman, is some kind of illusion or facade that at some point will be dropped, revealing that our womanhood is a sham and that we really men. Now here's a big difference between dating a trans woman and dating a drag queen. If you date a cis drag queen, at some point you're getting a man, honey. As explained by the only good YouTuber, Jasmine Masters. I don't want to date nobody who want to date me like this, because this comes off, and you not doing nothing with this. But if you date me, there's no dragging, there's no moment where I become a man. Baby, what you see is what you got. At least on this side, this is my natural side, and this is my biological side. When we discussing people who are a trans, we immediately say in the first paragraph trans woman, and then we personified by their biological pronoun, because biology is the nature of the pronoun. So everyone's always hating on trans women for being stereotypically feminine. So why do you think that in the bedroom we do be any other way? Part of it is that people are really ignorant about hormone replacement therapy and what it does for trans women. It feminizes our skin, our smell, our body fat distribution. It makes us grow breasts. That's right. These are me very real, very biological titties. I mean, I'm wearing a push-up bra, but at least there's something to push up now. Here, I'll show you. I mean they small, but it's not by any measure a male chest, and what I have is very real, very biological, and very female. You people think everything to do with trans women is fake. Fake voice, fake boobs, fake hair. But that's prejudice more than observation. Like we noticed that whether or not I actually wear a wig in a video has exactly zero effect on how many people comment to call me a man in a wig. So I may as well just wear wigs. And I may as well get me boobs done too, since people are gonna call them fake either way. But for what it's worth, this is me real hair, at least on this half, and these are me real boobs. And if I bring home a gentleman or a lady, all that stays on in bed, and it's there when I wake up in the morning. But what about the penis? All right, all right. Look, if the penis is feminine, how is that gay? I rest me case. Roll credits. You can't make me you. 6. The feminine penis. Look, some guys want that and that. And that's it. Now a lot of people assume that the involvement of a dick, even a lady dick, makes any sexual interaction with a man gay. But isn't male homosexuality usually understood as attraction to men, and not merely to penises wherever they may arise? I think there probably are some gay men who really just like dick. And I'm not judging. I'm not here to attack anyone's preferences. But being a straight man, I don't really think that's best understood as a man attracted to vaginas. You call woman pussy, but then you always like you, period. I'm the straight man. I'm not used to putting a towel down when I fuck. I don't know how to use a condom because I expect this woman to be on birth control and do everything for 'em. And then you have straight incels only calling labia roast beef and generally putting on a show-off vaginal disgust. I mean, if you gonna date cis woman or post-op trans women, I think you owe it to them to be a little more vagina positive. 'Cause even though straight men are like you dicks, that's gay. You guys also kinda love dicks. You always drawing them. Your buildings look like dicks. Your porn all has dicks in it. So what about dicks on chicks? Well, men like chicks and men like dicks. So what's the problem, officer? I think the booming popularity of girl porn speaks for itself. On Pornhub, the shemale category contains more videos than other such popular categories as roast sex, orgy, and webcam, and it's mostly straight men who watch it. When Adult Empire.com moved their girl content from their gay site to their straight site, views increased 50. In 2016. The same year North Carolina passed a transphobic and discriminatory bathroom bill. The adult site GameLink's top-selling titles in North Carolina were Me Transsexual Teacher, Shemale Shenanigans, and Joy Silvera's Transvisions 6. A lot of men first find out about trans women through porn, which is great since most girl porn is not trans positive and uses dehumanizing slurs like shemale and tranny, which is how you end up living in a country full of people who will jerk off to you but want to give you rights. So to a lot of men, that's the representation we have. Shemales, trannies, and Caitlyn Jenner. Great. I love that for us. Now there probably are some men who will always be put off by a woman's having a dick, and you know what? That's fine. Not every man can be a poet, a visionary, a sage. You like what you like. I'm not here to police anyone's desires. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm here to liberate men of sophisticated taste from society's cruel and unjust prejudice against their girl-loathing ways. But liberation begins with understanding. So who are the men who love trans girls? Well, according to trans woman Ivy talked to and my own personal experience, the men who date us can be divided into three general groups. Group 1 are men who, to be honest, are actually kinda put off by the dick, but they re so attracted to the woman it's attached to that they re willing to work around it or wait for it to grow on them. Group 2 are men who are attracted to trans women, including their penises, but they don't specifically fetishize the penis, so they wouldn't mind if their trans lover had genital reassignment and got a vagina. And then Group 3 are men who specifically fetishize chicks with dicks, and often want to worship the penis or be penetrated by it. Now Group 3 are what the trans community calls chasers. I think chasers is generally a bad idea because their attraction to us is based around fetishizing our genitals, which is often the part of us that we most uncomfortable with. So if you re-out a girl who likes men, Group 2 is really Goldilocks perfection unless you really like topping or you've had the surgery. Now we should say that Group 2 does include some bisexual men, and bisexual people of either gender can be great partners if you re-trans. You like girls, you like dick. I'm a girl with a dick. Let's make this happen. That said, if someone views that part of me as male and wants me to do with it what men do with it, then pass. Not interested. Now, you might be wondering, what is this postmodern neo-Marxist insanity? How could I view it as anything other than a male part? It's a fucking penis. Well, I'm glad you asked. I always jump at the opportunity to enlighten someone about the ecstasies of the feminine penis. You see, there are three factors that make a penis feminine: context, usage, and physiology. So first, context. Picture in your mind's eye a feminine woman. Now, picture her with a penis. That's not a man's penis. That's a woman's penis. It's feminine because of the context that it's in. Second, usage. A lesson in penis etiquette. A gentleman need not be coy about his penis. He may flaunt, he may brandish, he may tug, he may penetrate, he may order you to get on your knees like a good girl and if. Whereas, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a lady of good breeding never brandishes her penis. When she rises from the bath, she covers it gracefully with a demure hand, and when not in use, she keeps it carefully stowed away. Here's how to tuck your penis like a lady. The first step is to put on a set of vicious stiletto claws. This doesn't make things any easier, but it does build character. Next, you want to take not one, but two pairs of cotton-lined poly spandex bikini-cut panties, at least one size too small, and pull them most of the way up your legs. Now, there's just no way to put this delicately, my dears. You re-gonna take your claw, and you re-gonna grab your scrotum, and you re-gonna yank that bubblegum back into your peach crease. Now hold it back with one hand, and with your other hand push your penis back, pressing those little eggs up into your pelvis. Bring your thighs together to hold everything in place, and then pull your panties up, front first, then back. Run your hand over it to make sure nothing's seeping out the sides, and then voila. It's like it was never there. For more information, you can purchase me book, Tuck Your Penis, with a new foreword by Dr. Jordan Peterson. Ivy now explained both the context and the usage of the feminine penis. So let us now turn to physiology. Most people don't realize that taking feminizing hormones actually changes the anatomy and functionality of the genitals, shrinking everything down and softening everything up. That means changes to a little thing not a lot of people are talking about, but something I've been trying to raise awareness of. Start a conversation, open a dialogue, really get people talking about. 7. The mouth feel. Oh hi, it's Natalie Wynn, your tasting specialist. I have tasted everything. The royal flush of oral sex, girl dick, boy dick, girl pussy, and let us not forget about the masculine clitoris. But today, we amuse the palate with the feminine penis. Now, with respect to flavor, the feminine penis has more sweetness than the masculine penis and fewer truffle notes, while retaining the fundamental dick umami. With respect to mouth feel, the feminine penis is of course softer and smoother than the masculine penis and does not become as turgid. And as for the cum taste, well, it is a known fact that girl cum is clear, liquid, and tastes of saline, whereas boy cum is milky, viscous, and more acidic. It is therefore the consensus among sommeliers that sucking a female penis is not gay. Cheers. 8. Being straight is pretty gay. So we've been trying to clear up some misconceptions about sex with trans women, but ultimately you kinda just need to try it yourself to fully, viscerally understand why sex with a trans woman is sex with a woman. Now we must always be wary of being overly simplistic in our thinking. Reality is complicated, and while it's undeniable that many straight men are attracted to trans women, the messy reality is that a lot of straight men are also attracted to male cross-dressers. Before I transitioned, I was a cross-dresser, and I wasn't super womanly either, like fully Dr. Frankenfurter. And that's why I'm so iconic. I showed the world that in 2 years you can transition from literally Dr. Frankenfurter to a very real, very biological drag queen. But even when I was that baritone-voiced transvestite, I still got semi-regular messages from men being like, "So I'm a straight man, but I'm like really attracted to you when you dress as a woman and it's really making me question me sexuality." Now I could flatter myself with some kind of retcon and be like, well, maybe those men just picked up on me inherently womanly female energy essence that we always had since I was born a female biological soul trapped in the body of a cross-dressing baby. But let's be real. There are straight men who fuck cross-dressers. There are straight men who fuck drag queens. There are straight identifying men who fuck other straight identifying men. What is going on here? Straight men, what is your deal? Who are you? What is your life? How did you become straight? Did they recruit you? Were you groomed? I blame the parents. Let's Go back to the game you guys like to play. The one you call is this gay. The commonly understood definition of homosexual acts is that they re-sex acts between people of the same gender. But I've heard men argue that if a woman puts on a strap-on and pegs a guy, then that's gay, or that it's gay if a man enjoys a woman touching his nipples. To be clear, we're talking about one man and one woman, Eve sucking Adam's nipples, and according to these men, it's totally gay. What that shows is that the idea of heterosexuality includes much more than just sex between a man and a woman. It actually encompasses a complex series of rituals that must be performed by people who are playing the correct roles. So if a man deviates from his assigned part in the approved bedroom activities, then according to this very fragile view of heterosexuality, he ceases to be straight. Even a man's own relationship with his body is policed by these narrow confines. For instance, some men won't even wash their own assholes for fear that some involuntary twinge of anal pleasure might transform them irrevocably into raving homos. I mean, to be fair, before I washed my asshole, I was a quarterback. Now I'm a cheerleader. Diker, don't tell the coach I was a guy. This obsession with the details of what sex is allowed and what prohibited reminds me of what psychologist Jonathan Haidt calls an ethics of purity and degradation. Basically, it's a style of moral thinking that treats the body like a temple that must be protected from desecration, which means you have to obey laws about how you can fuck and what you can eat. So, for example, religious dietary laws. I think this hyper-masculine hetero-man code is basically an ethics of purity, a kind of kosher law governing straightness, and the is this gay game is its theology. Now this whole line of thinking has been reduced to absurdity pretty effectively by, of all people, Count Dankula. If you class yourself as a straight man, and you masturbating, that means that you retouching a dick, and that's gay. Well memed, me lord, well memed. The pinnacle of the whole conversation is reached when Dankula concludes that since a woman inherits half her na from her father, she's technically half a man, and therefore having sex with a woman is pretty gay. Obviously this is shitposting, but it's logically just as good an argument as traps are gay because chromosomes. So I think what we have here is a very bad theory about what it is to be gay. So what is being gay? Socrates. On second thought, I don't know her. 9. Being gay is good, actually. Sometimes when you've been arguing about something for more than half an hour, it's good to take a step back and ask yourself, why are we even asking this question in the first place? Why does it even matter whether attraction to trans women is gay or straight? It seems like the most pressing reason is that a lot of men equate straightness with manhood, and they defend their manhood at all costs. Now, men, this might be difficult to hear, and maybe you don't want to hear it from me, but this idea of manhood is hurting you, and it's hurting cis women, and it's hurting trans women, and it's hurting gay people. For one thing, it makes you really, really bad at sex. Who wants to sleep with a guy who's so hung up on homophobic paranoia that he can't even enjoy his own body? Having your nipples sucked does not make you gay. Being pegged does not make you gay. Sucking another man's dick just to trade does not make you gay. And why? Because being gay is a socially constructed identity defined as a type of person who is persistently attracted to people of the same gender. If you persistently attracted to people of the same gender and you identify with the word gay, then you gay. If not, then you not, and nothing you can do will change that. So that's one reason to stop worrying about this, and reason two is that being gay is good actually. I mean, why would you be worried about this if you didn't think being gay was bad? Now, I don't identify as gay except in some paneled cultural sense. We the gays. But as a queer person, I can't help but be a little bit wounded by the fact that straight men are so obsessed with proving that they aren't like us. But that is not a wound I'm going to dwell on, because life is much too short for me to waste any more time processing your homophobic baggage. Are traps gay? Baby, who cares? Just do what feels good. That's the simple answer. But the truth is that when people say, traps are gay but there's nothing wrong with being gay, that is nothing but a sneaky attempt to call trans women men and to reinforce the stigma against dating us among the group of people who are in fact most attracted to, because it is mostly straight men and not gay men who like us. And the gay stigma is the reason why only a small fraction of the men who are attracted to us are willing to openly date us. And the stigma is very real. A straight man who dates a trans woman takes on some of the burden of queerness. Men who date us can be mocked by other men. They can be rejected by their families. They experience, in short, a sample of the difficulty all queer people face. But a real man, in my opinion, is not the kind of man who lets other people's prejudices control his life. A real man does not act like an insecure little boy afraid of what people will say about him. A real man owns what he likes and is not ashamed of the women he loves. And so, my edgy little boys, by that measure, I may be a woman, but I'm still more of a man than you. 10. I have feelings too. Well, I guess today we learned that our traps gay is not a debate worth winning, because just by participating, we re-accepting the validity of an insincere question and the bigoted assumptions it relies on. Some accepting the bias we learn where priorities where there's Now, some harsh words have been said about men tonight, and I think that harshness is deserved. Hashtag not all gamers. But also, this video completely centers men's feelings, and I have feelings to goddamn it. And some of those feelings are not all that different from the anxieties men have. Let me explain. Let me explain. So I identify me sexuality as queer and poly, which in me case is politically correct terminology for confused slutbag. Before I transitioned I dated women, and I still do have lesbicious and lesbonical feelings, but early on in me transition I encountered a lot of turf shit, and it really scared me off dating cis lesbians, which I never have. Even before I transitioned, the question, do I want to fuck men, had been in the back of my head for a long time. But about a year ago I was like, I want to fuck men. I want to fuck men. But when I first started messing around with men, I mean I was terrified. because men are scary, and in my early transition I'd only dated bisexual trans people in NBs, and as an aside, some of those experiences were really revelatory. A person with a vagina can be fully a man in bed. If that teaches you something about gender, it might be hard to learn otherwise. And loving a trans woman, like I still sometimes do struggle to fully believe that a real woman, but to experience another trans woman, not just as a woman, but as the radiant model of womanhood, that's an experience that's meant a lot to me. And if you re-attracted to women, and that's an experience you haven't had, you re-missing out. But what I was going to say is bisexual, trans, and non-binary people are a pretty safe group of people to date when you early in transition, because they pretty chill about anatomy and presentation. But if you going to date cishet men, you need to be serving women. And I guess you don't need to, but it doesn't hurt. And I did wonder if I was woman enough for it. So the first couple times I was so afraid. I was like, when I take me clothes off, is he going to think I'm a man? Basically, my anxiety was our traps gay. But what I ended up doing is just working up to things gradually. And of course, you start by sucking dick. That's very safe, because like, what red-blooded man is going to turn down a girl blowjob? And it doesn't involve me junk in any way. Then I got a little bolder, and I got with a guy who like, years before I transitioned we'd been guy friends, so to then have a sexual experience where it was very much between a man and a woman, like, that shit is super hot. Recently I took what seemed like the biggest risk, and I let a straight guy go down on me, and I was so nervous about that, because like, what if he thinks I'm, why man, what if he's repulsed? Can you feel like a woman while your dick is being sucked? The answer is yes. It was so hot. I loved it, he loved it, and just knowing that he'd never done that before, but I would just say it's special 10 out of 10. And you know what he told me after? He told me he liked the mouth feel. Everyone's talking about it now, bitches. So look, I really don't want to shame men for being anxious about dating trans women, because I was anxious too in the other direction. But I don't want to shame men for treating trans women like they read dirty little secrets. And I don't want to shame men for dehumanizing us and voting away our rights by day while jerking off to shemale porn by night. And I don't want to pay for refu pay no pay do pay pay do pay do pay do oh do oh do we do view oh oh do oh do to go view view to do view bo I view view to view main I will will I will I will will Theo will you will why will you will and will you how will you will how will you how will you view how will you will I will you that is pathetic. If you're so worried about proving you're a real man, why don't you start by standing up for the women you love, you chicken shit cowards? So look, what I'm asking for is so basic. Don't call human beings traps. If you re-attracted to trans women, don't to be ashamed of it. It's okay, you can date us. We re more than just jack-off material. If you aren't attracted to trans women, respect the people who are. If you do date a trans woman, treat her like a princess because God knows she's been through enough shit. And finally, protect trans women of color at all costs. All I want here is basic human decency. Is that really too much to ask? Well, this is the internet, so yes. Yes, it is. God damn it. Well, that was long. I suppose the lesson is, as Sigmund Freud once said, sometimes a cigar is just a beautiful woman's penis. You must think that you are so unique, trying to educate all the free, blissfully unaware of how crude, heard before, bigoted and plain rude. All the things that you say come up every day. There is one thing that I cannot stand, and it's you, dear head in the sand. It's not really ignorance much, it's the willful bigots who find us. There is one thing that I cannot stand, and it's you, dear head in the sand. It's not really ignorance much, it's the willful bigots who find us. Don't let them define us.